There we go. Fixed. Thank you for joining me on the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network, simulcast on our good friends KLRN. It is Friday, the 15th of November, 9 days after the election. And oh, man, the left is still wetting their pants, man. It has just been incredible to watch this. So 9 days ago, obviously, I haven't talked to you since then. We broadcasted election night for like 9 hours. Then I was out of town Friday through Monday, so I haven't had a chance to be back until now, which is why, I'm way, way, way out of sorts with all of my equipment. I should know better. I should have come back and done a soft, here we are. But I want to talk to you about something to start off the show. And it's change. And if you were watching on KLRN earlier, Rick was talking about this. But one of the things that I think we overlook as a society is how scary and different change is for people. And when I say scary, I mean scary. People do not like to change. I don't like to change. Everybody likes their routine. But then life thrusts situations at you that force you to change. Recently, I've had something like that where it's you have to change. You have to change your mindset. You have to change what you're doing. You have to force that change and accept that change and embrace that change. And I think as a nation, we need to do that. Because I'll tell you right now, all the pant wetting on the left, in media, in politics, that is all for show. They're not really upset. I mean, they are. I think they're upset about what might be exposed. I think they're upset about, all their pet projects going away and how they just spend our money left and right, or the congressional liquor store shutting down if you're Nancy Pelosi. That's a real thing, by the way. Not only is there really a congressional liquor store, but Doge is going to shut it down, Vivek and Elon. But change is scary. I'm talking about the citizens. I see so much social media, people just freaking out. And let me tell you something, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. There will be changes, and there should be changes. As a nation, we need more change. It has been the status quo for so long. We saw a little bit of change under the first Trump administration before COVID hit, and then COVID obviously ruled the rest. But one of the things that has been bred into the American people and then beaten into the American people is old politicians and people who have a secondary degree know what they're doing, sit down and shut up. And that is 100% Well, he's a lawyer. He should be a good senator. Well, what if he was a lousy lawyer? What if he was the lawyer, the weird porn lawyer that was around for a while, right? Lawyers aren't all good people. Doctors aren't all good people. And it doesn't mean because you have a degree, you know something about something. The flip side of that is I know people who have an incredible amount of education that have the common sense of a fruit fly. I also know people that have very minimal education as some of the wisest people we know. The founders, while well-educated, a lot of what they put into our founding documents were from experience. It had nothing to do necessarily with their education. It was what they experienced under a tyrannical regime and what they saw in their travels. But they were young. They weren't all old. Don't let the powder wigs fool you. Some of the founders were younger than I am by 8, 9, 10 years. And those are like the founders we hear and talk about. That's not everybody that was involved. But now we're seeing, with these nominations being made by President-elect Trump, we're seeing a change, and we're seeing a much younger group of people who are going to step in and start redirecting this country back to its roots, I hope, back to where it belongs. Doge, right? Elon and Vivek. Elok, I just gave them a new nickname. Like, that's them together. They're Elok. Somebody write that down. Give me credit. I want it all. Them going through everything on the federal level and deciding what's waste and what's not. And by the way, neither one of them are taking the salaries. I just read that before I came on the air. That's a change this country has needed for a long time. I talked about it yesterday. The problem with the status quo politicians that have been around forever, the Mitch McConnells, the Chuck Schumers, the Nancy Pelosi's, yada, 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 is they are so used to just spending our tax money like it's their own on anything and everything that they want. And that's going to change. That has trickled down. You talk about trickle-down economics. That has trickled down through the federal government with the amount of waste. If you know anybody that's honest that works for the Fed or works for state and local government even, they will tell you there's an incredible amount of waste. And all of the people that work in those establishments, they forget who they work for on a regular basis. And I'm not saying the guys that work from home or what, I just mean in general, the overspending, the mismanagement. Look at our debt ceiling, right? The debt ceiling is supposed to be a debt ceiling. It was supposed to be the cap on how much the country would spend, Congress would spend. But then they just found out, we'll just keep raising the debt ceiling. Why? Because nothing is stopping them from raising the debt ceiling. They just call it a debt ceiling. It's a pretty word that means nothing. Because as soon as they want to spend money on some pet project or send millions and billions to the Ukraine or send a ton of money to Uganda to study lesbian interpretive dance, whatever it is, they just do it and don't think about it. They send our money, our tax dollars overseas. They spend it on things here that make zero sense, steroid rats and stuff like that. And I know people are like, well, you know, it's just got a funny chat. You know, we need stuff like that, the medical lab work and all the money and the funding that goes into it and yada, yada, yada. Okay, why aren't these private companies funding it? All right, the drug companies make millions, billions of dollars. Why aren't they funding it? Why do we have to fund it? If whatever they're working on is so damn important, they should just fund it. Because they're going to make money. Look at how much money they made after COVID. They made boatloads of money. We pay for the funding. We pay for the research. People don't realize that. And I'm looking at everybody in chat. How you doing? Thank you so much for being here. Please, wherever you're watching from, like and subscribe the video. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. It helps everything. So if you're on YouTube, X, wherever, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. Chat rooms are open, Facebook and everywhere else, so go nuts. Is Facebook open? Yeah, Facebook's open. I did that. I remembered to do that. But the amount of money that we send overseas alone, and then we borrow on it and pay more on it, needs to end. Doge is huge. And I know, like, the name's funny because the Dogecoin and it goes back to Elon Musk and blah, blah, blah. But the idea that there's an entire organization within the federal government that actually wants to limit spending our taxpayer money. Remember, nothing is government funded. It's taxpayer funded. All of it is taxpayer funded. So when they say, well, it's a federally funded program. No, it's a taxpayer funded program. There's a great meme, and I wish I remembered to pull it up, where it shows a country, I believe it's in the Middle East, where you see a whole bunch of rockets going towards each other in the sky. And the caption is, one set of rockets, U.S. taxpayer dollars. The other set of rockets, also somehow U.S. taxpayer dollars. And it's true. We spend in hand money. It's amazing. And we are so far in debt. Imagine running your house on that. I know. Right now is the worst financial situation I've been in a long time. Inflation has killed me. Right? You cannot spend more than you make unless you're the government. If you do this as a private person, your credit report gets destroyed. It could screw up how you're going to get maybe an apartment in the future, or you can't buy a house or whatever. Not that anyone can buy a house right now, but you get my point. With the federal government, there's no real punishment. So something had to be done financially. I'm still a big believer that we need to get rid of the Fed. I think the Fed's a joke. Let me give you a little. It used to be we didn't spend more than we had. That was pretty much the rule of thumb. Not perfectly, but we didn't spend more than we had. Why? Because we had the gold standard, we had the silver standard. We got removed on that. And the dollar is now just an imaginary thing that we all agree to believe in. And I know I said this in a show last week, right? And they manipulate that dollar however they wish. They print more than we have. What does that do? It causes inflation. When have you seen the government legitimately cut back? When? And I don't want to hear about all the base closings that Clinton did, because if you go back and you look at all the financial stuff that Clinton did, he did some decent things, but he also kicked the can a lot of different times way down the road. So programs and stuff wouldn't start hitting until later on, or they wouldn't expand until later on. And I know all politicians do that to an extent, but that is what needs to stop. That mindset is what needs to stop. The service to the American people by our elected and appointed officials needs to put the American people first. I don't know why this is a crazy concept. I don't know how it became a crazy concept. Because even Democrats back in the day used to believe that the American people come first. And I'm not making that up. I know that sounds weird and bizarre, but it's true. The difference between Democrats and Republicans back in the day were really social issues, but there was no question about border, keeping the homeland safe, blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't even that far ago. Barack Obama believed we should have had a secured border when he was running. Hillary Clinton, same thing. Nancy Pelosi, you can go back. I'm not making any of this up. Just do the search. All the information's out there. And that's what's different now, I believe, is all the information is out there. It is very easy to go see them be gigantic hypocrites. It is so easy for you to go back and see what they really fail. Why do you think Kamala Harris failed? On top of her having zero real personality, and she's a persona, she's not a person, yada, yada, yada. All the things I said going into the election. But one of the other things is everything that she lied about, people were able to do the research, and within seconds, it exposed it all. The world has changed. We need to change as a nation. We need to accept the changes. You have people coming into the highest levels of government and in the cabinet who are the same age as me and younger. They are in touch with the world. J.D. Vance is 40 years old. Dude, I'll tell you right now, at 48 years old, you want to feel like you haven't accomplished something? Go see the vice president being younger than you. It used to bother me in my 30s when athletes were younger than me making more. Now the vice president's younger than me. And I'll tell you something, my generation, who really, if you go through all the statistics from the election, really pushed this election for Trump. But my generation is now preparing to hand off, or as they should be, to the next generation. Right? The boomers are gone. I'll tell you right now, they're almost gone completely from our higher levels of government. There's some hanging on, and there are some that are still okay to be there. Not every boomer is out of their mind or otherwise senile. And those other generations now have to start picking up that gauntlet and accepting the change that this country overwhelmingly voted for. And yeah, they're pant wetting on the left like crazy right now. And I'm going to get into some of the nominations after the break. But they're pant wetting because they're losing control. They're losing the control that they had for years. Things will be exposed. Have zero doubt about that. Things will be exposed that the government tried to not expose, but we all know the government does things behind our back. We shouldn't be shocked by it. We also shouldn't want it to not happen. No, we want to happen. We should know everything our government is doing. Because when we don't, we find out years later that they were doing horrible things in places that we shouldn't have been in, that I don't want to be involved in anymore. As a nation, we shouldn't be involved in that anymore. I understand protecting the homeland. I understand that there are some bad people out there that need to be dealt with. I understand all of that. But I also am sick and tired of us spending our money and these other countries doing things that we don't need to be doing, when there are countries that live right there that could be doing it. We need a change. We need to stop being the world's ATM when we have no money left. We are upside down financially. If the government was a business, it had been closed years ago. And now that change is coming. And I think Doge is going to be the first of big cuts coming. I hope. I mean, you got to tell me, if you ever look at all of the organizations within the federal government that operate, how much money you go into and how many we do not need, how many duplicitous ones there are. It's out of control. And that is why the left politicians are afraid. And the people on the left are afraid because they don't understand. They haven't done the research. And I don't care what they say or what they put online. They haven't looked back to the country we used to be. Why? Because they were told that that country was nothing but horrible, racist bigots. So they don't want to call back to financial responsibility. They don't want to call back to closed borders. They want to do that because they were raised to believe that all of that was horrible and that we're a horrible nation. And they're afraid to that change, or to change to that, I should say. And take a break. We come back. Going to start getting into the nomination picks. I know everybody's already covered it, but I got to throw in my 2 cents right here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR Media Network simulcast, KLRN Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Edge of Liberty. Appreciate you being here on KLRN, the SHR Media Network. Please check us out on YouTube. Just look up SHR Media. Please like and subscribe wherever you're watching. We're everywhere. Facebook. I mean, you name it. I'm even on Twitch, for goodness sakes. So I'm going to share this with you, and then we're going to get into what this means when we talk about this Trump presidency and why the left is crapping chickens all over the hill.
Now let me turn to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Another closely contested election now comes to an end. To my Republican colleagues, I offer a word of caution in good faith. Take care not to misread the will of the people, and do not abandon the need for bipartisanship. After winning an election, the temptation may be to go to the extreme. We've seen that happen over the decades, and it's consistently backfired on the party in power. So instead of going to the extremes, I remind my colleagues that this body is most effective when it's bipartisan. If we want in the next 4 years the Senate to be as productive as the last 4, the only way that will happen is through bipartisan cooperation. Democrats will be ready to do what we have consistently done. Work with both sides when the opportunity arises. Democrats will never abandon our values, but neither will we reject an opportunity to move the ball forward to make people's lives better when we can. The question is now whether or not Republicans are willing to do the same.
I really, this is how you know they're scared. So they lost the House. I mean, look, Republicans and conservatives right now, we have the House, we have the Senate, and the executive. There's work to be done, and they better do it. And this is how you know that it's not going to be business as usual in Washington anymore. At least not for the next 2 years. If Republicans don't get the job done, they're not going to have it after 2 years. And I know there's slim margins. But it kills me that Chuck Schumer has the stones to stand there and talk about bipartisanship. It kills me that he would absolutely just make a mockery of himself up there. Because I'll tell you right now, Chuck Schumer is one of the absolute worst at bipartisanship. How many bills sat on his desk that were bipartisan that never, ever hit the floor of the Senate? How many? I can tell you there is an enormous bill for the border that was sitting there. What's it, HR 2? Never did it. Now, after the last 4 years of calling us Nazis and every horrible slur that they could possibly think up, scaring the American people, scaring them. And I'm going to play a clip about how they're still scaring them. But scaring American people into falsehoods, talking about how Trump was going to start putting people in jails and rounding people up in camps, yada, yada, yada. Have you seen the reaction on social media? People shaving their heads, people screaming, people just losing their mind. All of that was done by the left. All of it. All of it was done by the left, the media and the politicians, when they were lying about what was going to happen. Look at, what was it, 4 days before the election, you had Barack Obama repeat the verified people lie. You had MSNBC, or whatever they are now, MSNBC, MSLSD. You had CNN, almost every newspaper in the country, minus a few, talking about all of this crap and how horrible it was going to be. And now they're talking about bipartisanship. And look, when we start talking about Matt Gaetz being nominated for Attorney General, I hope everybody who needs to be investigated is. And I was in a thread with Jersey Joe and BZ yesterday, 2 days ago or whatever. We're talking about, what the DOJ is going to do if Gaetz gets, well, he has been appointed, but if he gets approved. And I said, go after everyone who absolutely broke the law. In jest, in short, there was a lot more than that. And then let's go back to getting the DOJ to run properly, how it was meant to run, not how it's been used the last 4 years, not how it's been targeting the last 4 years, how it's meant to run. Make justice blind again and do it on the federal level. And I have personal issues with Matt Gaetz. However, professionally, I don't. I think that he could do a good job if he is allowed to. I just don't want him to be emotional. That's my only thing with Matt Gaetz I don't like, is he gets emotional, he gets impulsive. That's my only criticism of him. And everyone talking about, oh, well, there was the ethics committee. I'm not the first one to say this, but I'll tell you the same thing that we heard about the Epstein files with Trump. If it was in there, we'd have known it already. If Matt Gaetz did anything that was alleged, he just ran a re-election campaign. They would have perp walked him in a heartbeat. They wouldn't have thought twice about it. But as the saying goes, there's no there. And they know that. We know that. We know they would have targeted him. He is one of the most vocal in the House when it comes to pushing back against the status quo. Sometimes too vocal for my liking. And like I said, there's a few times I was like, Matt, shut up. But the simple fact of the matter is, that's who he is. And I believe he puts the country first. I do believe that. I don't think he is a bad person. I don't think he was a bad choice. But the left wants to sell this to you, and they're going to do this to everybody. I put out a tweet yesterday that essentially said, get ready for the tidal wave of statements like, this person who was just nominated for something did this thing 15 years ago longer in a place that I can't remember, but it was witnessed by my friend who is a journalist / lawyer. And now I want to come forth about it. And I know one's already come out. I didn't get it. I just looked it up really quick or saw it in the stream. I didn't get the specifics on even who it was against. It might have been against Matt Gaetz. Who knows? But it's going to start. They tried to do that just before the last election about Trump and some model who was hooking up with Epstein, and it was Epstein and her were a couple, and it didn't sail. The Guardian did that, which, by the way, they're suddenly off of X. I know Elon, or I know X now probably won't do it. But man, all those people are like, I'm out of here. We're not using X anymore. Just block them. Just block them because you're running away. Go to Blue Sky that was down again last night. But it's going to start. They're going to start walking people out saying all of these horrible things because the left is scared. How scared? Well, they're scared enough to make statements like this.
This whole, just like Tulsi Gabbard does. You really want her to have all of the secrets of the United States and our defense intelligence agencies when she has so clearly been in Putin's pocket? That just has to be a hard no.
This whole Tulsi Gabbard and Russia thing, and look, Tulsi Gabbard, when she was a Democrat, she supported WEF and a couple other things I wasn't a fan about, and I believe she's turned the corner on all of that. I hope so. But a Russian asset, Putin's puppet, this was a lie started by Hillary Clinton for political gain. That's all that was. Hillary Clinton was trying to beat her in a primary because she was afraid of her because, as we have seen, Tulsi can absolutely run a campaign and Tulsi can absolutely reach people. So Hillary Clinton, this was the same person, Hillary Clinton, who paid for the Steele dossier. Russia, Russia, Russia. Hillary Clinton said this about Tulsi Gabbard when she was a sitting congresswoman and she was a member of the military. She's been through more backgrounds than most other people. She has a secret clearance already. She's a Russian asset. Okay, well, if that's the case, Warren, by the way, who lied about your heritage, but whatever. If that's the case, are you saying that the people that do the background are so horrible at it they couldn't figure it out? So they're incompetent, yet you have not done nothing to investigate that? Oh, it's BS is why. This is all they're going to do now. Every anti-Trumper, every single leftist, they're going to come out and absolutely say the most stupid, ridiculous things to try to get attention. They're all megalomaniacs. Here's another one, John Bolton. Gaetz must be the worst nomination for a cabinet position in American history. This is something that falls outside the proper scope of deference to a presidential nominating members of his senior team. Gaetz is not only totally incompetent for this job, he doesn't have character or civic virtue the founding fathers wanted. Hey, sport, I don't know if you know this, but the founding fathers weren't really a fan of just blowing everything up like you love to do. John Bolton, don't let the nerdy little look and the mustache fool you. Bolton is a big fan of just wars. I used to like Bolton back in the day because I actually used to believe that he had America's best interest in mind. And I don't believe that at all anymore. But this is who John Bolton is. This is what everybody is on the left and the never Trumper so-called Republicans. They're not conservatives, rhinos. But the leftist media is going to absolutely run with their marching orders. Everything is going to be anti-Trump. Oh, it's Pete Hegseth who has the SA accusation. Thank you, Joe. I knew one came out, and there's going to be more. This isn't going to end. They're all going to somehow know a reporter or a lawyer. It's all BS. But you want to see what the left is doing now? Listen to this. This is how the leftist media is handling this.
Doesn't mean you can't be attorney general, but he's not going to receive a very warm welcome from the career folks there. We've seen people today, our fellow reporters, crying, hugging in the hallways. I've gotten sources from text messages from sources, the Trump administration, the Biden administration. No one is endorsing this.
A couple things. First of all, the fact that the people that have been there forever are uncomfortable with this makes me like it more. Anything to make them uncomfortable makes me happier. Because the comfortable ones are the ones like the Strzoks and Page who are trying to subvert an election. He'll never be president. The DOJ is riddled with it, and we know that. How many reports came out the day after the election was over and Trump, the election was called for Trump, about how FBI officials are afraid that Trump's going to target them because of X, Y, and Z. Well, yeah, if you have nothing to be targeted, then don't worry about it. But you a-holes are still government employees, and if you were not working with the best interest of the American public in mind, you do not belong there. You don't belong. If you are pulling strings in government behind closed doors to meet the narrative you want, you do not belong there unless you are an executive making the decision that's best for the people, that's constitutional. Other than that, if you're some hired ninny who's in the back room making decisions for the entire country as to who to target and who not to target, and you're not the attorney general and it's not legal because it's subversive tactics, subversive techniques, whatever, you don't belong there. You are a disgrace to your shield. You are a disgrace to the oath that you took, and you are a disgrace as an American because you are sidestepping the way that it's supposed to work. And you're putting your values above what the American people need. And I don't care if you're on the right doing that. I don't want you there either. You have a job. You follow the law. If you're an investigator or a criminal investigator, you follow the evidence, and then if there's a crime, you prosecute. You do not say, show me the person, I'll show you a crime, because we're not a communist nation. And that's what communists do. And then as far as the reporters crying in the hallways, go take a flying leap. I don't care about reporters crying. If you cannot handle the fact that somebody you may not like is getting a certain position and you're crying about it as a reporter, guess what? You were in the wrong friggin' field. Crying about it? Who cares? Cry somewhere else. It's the most ridiculous. Oh, reporters are crying in the background. Who cares about them? They're reporters. They're a dime a dozen. Maybe you'll get some actual legitimate journalists in there if they quit crying about it. Why would the American people care about some self-entitled, self-important reporter who always seem to interject themselves into stories instead of reporting the stories is crying over this? Who cares? This is the stupidest. That's the stupidest statement. This is why there are 100% idiots over there. Reporters are crying. Jesus. We have real issues in this country. What are you morons talking about? It's infuriating. And if you think it's bad here, I'm going to cover a story out of the UK about free speech. It gets a whole lot worse. And then I talk about a few people that said they're leaving X. We'll see if they do. And, of course, now that I'm calm again, we'll talk about the drink of the week. Hey, if you are, just so you know, Friday night tonight, there will be no Reverb Common Sense. Joe has the night off. So if you were looking forward to that, you're going to have to wait till next week. I'm up against a break right here on the SHR Media Network. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Well, America, I hope you like measles. The latest provocative pick from President-elect Donald Trump just moments before we came on air today. We learned that he was about to officially tap Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, and just a few minutes later, he made that announcement official. Well, America, I hope you like measles.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Where am I? Where am I? There it is. I hope you like measles. God, they're so ridiculous. I'm just so sick and tired of the leftist media. I am just so exhausted by them. The amount of BS that they will throw out unabashed without any hesitation. As if RFK is going to suddenly like, oh no, it's just the measles vaccine is gone. As I said before, RFK's whole thing with vaccines is they have to follow all of the trials that every other medicine has to. And by the way, his whole plan of making sure that drug companies can't advertise on TV like cigarettes can't, I think is a brilliant idea. Because I'll tell you right now, and I know people like this, they will sit there and watch those ads and go, I have that, and then go run to the doctor. There is a serious issue with overprescribing medicines. The whole medical drug hospital field, insurance companies needs to be fixed. It's out of control. But drug companies peddling stuff needs to end too. And I really hope RFK is able to do that. You know, everyone's just, they're wetting the bed over there so much. It's glorious. I love it. It makes my whole week because they're getting mad about things that are common sense. You realize how many products we allow in our food in this country that other countries have banned completely, including Canada, Europe, whatever, because trials have shown it's unhealthy. You want to look at why obesity, including myself, I'm no thin person, but why it's to the levels that it is because the amount of preservatives and chemicals in our food, the body doesn't process it the same. McDonald's, remember the whole trans fats thing, right? that whole craze that went there. Do you know McDonald's used to cook their fries in the beef tallow that they got from processing the cows for their meat? They used to get, that's what it was cooked in back in the day. I think they changed that in the 70s. But you look at pictures back then, there weren't nearly as many fat people as there is now. And I know we didn't have PlayStation and the internet and stuff that keeps kids sat down. But there's a lot of crap in that food that is not good for you whatsoever. The drink I'm going to give you just before we end the show at the top of the hour, that's good for you. Well, it might be good for your soul. I want to talk to you about this story, and I don't normally do international stories, but I kind of felt like this one, it falls on the heels of this. And give me a second, because I got to pull up one video that I thought I had in the right place, but clearly I didn't, because I'm a moron. Well, I'm mostly a moron. Hold on. Whoop. Hold on. You'll see it. There she is. There's the ginger. That's right. I called her a ginger. Don't care what you say. This starts everything, and I'm going to show you what happens when you start listening to people like this, because it happened to the UK.
One of the things that's changed even since I got involved in politics is just the rise of the percentage of people who get their information off of platforms that have no fact-checking mechanism and no accountability for having disinformation spread, right? Right. And as you know well, and I mean, when I got started in Democratic politics, you know, most of it was like local TV ads. That was what it was about. Obviously, national TV, local print. Those local TV is held to a higher standard.
They're mad that we talk. We know that. This story isn't new. Hillary was talking about this before the election, a whole bunch of people. We have to put the clamps on social media. That's like putting the clamps in your living room, right? Social media, if you pay for it, if you don't pay for it, whatever. I understand that we're the sold products. They sell us to the advertisers, etc. But the conversations we have are no different than if we're having them on a street corner, in a living room, in a backyard at a barbecue. It's no different. But they want to start limiting that. Why? Because they can't control the narrative. It's very, very, very simple. When they control the narrative, they maintain power. They tell you what they think you need to know. And then if you speak out against it, because the so-called fact checkers show up, they attack you. And they will absolutely use your social media against you. How do we know it? Because Britain, now referred to as Soviet Britain, has already started to show us what happens when you post things that aren't nice or that they don't agree with or they don't approve of on the internet. Look at Cameron Bell. She was jailed 9 months after she live streamed a group of masked and hooded men making racist comments on TikTok after a riot in Staffordshire. Just for posting it. Just for posting it. She did 9 months. By the way, there was a story about a rapist in Britain who was released. And even though he was convicted, he was only given like 90 days or something ridiculous. And it doesn't just end there. This is a story that's going on in Britain, and I'm not going to play the whole video. I was going to, but it's long and I don't have enough time left. But the long story short, there you go. You can read it yourself. A British man wrote it on social media that he doesn't want to see Palestinian flags all over the UK. The police then showed up to his house at 4 a.m. to arrest him for it. 4 a.m. Because he doesn't want to see Palestinian flags all over the UK. Hey, guess what? I don't want to see Palestinian flags all over America. I do not support the the Hamas movement. They are the government for Palestine right now, and Hamas are terrorists. So right now, yeah, I don't want to see it. Does that mean that I think every single Palestinian person's horrible? No. But I don't want to see it all over this country. But guess what? If I just said that now, and we're in the UK, who's already using social media, what you say on social media, as crimes, hate crimes, thought crimes. If that idea made it over to here, I'd be going to jail for that. I'd be going to jail because I don't want to see Ukrainian flags being flown in federal buildings. I understand when they're flown at the White House because you have a visiting dignitary from a country. Fine. But not just thrown up in Congress, not just worn on everybody's shirt, not just in the hallways of Congress. I don't believe in it. I believe that we're an American country. Our flag should be in all federal buildings and only our flag. National pride is not a bad thing, but they keep trying to tell you it is. They keep trying to tell you when you speak up, you're wrong. They try to do that here. You look at what they called us going into the election. You look at what the federal government deemed terroristic threats. White Christian nationals, right? People like me, I'm not really religious anymore, but because I believed in the country and I look like this, I'm sorry I look like this, but I look like this, I was a bigger threat than the millions of people that came over the southern border. People like the monster that killed Lake and Riley. If you have a chance, you need to go find the videos from that trial because it's heartbreaking. It's gross. It's terrible. But that's why we need to close the border. That's why we need to put America first. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't mind helping nations that legitimately need it. Famine, yeah, give them food. Give them some medicine. I understand that. If they're outright purchasing stuff from us, I'm okay with that too, to a point. But I'm not going to split that hair right now. But we need to put America first because we can't help anybody when we don't help ourselves. Oh, somebody asked who's going to host my show. Yeah, I don't know. I'll find a way to do it. I'll be underground. I'll be like, what's the guy that, the Fox mask? I'll be like, God, what was the radio? There used to be like a radio station that was off the coast of the UK that was brought, whatever. But I'll be pirate radio. I'll figure out a way. You're not getting rid of my face that easily. But it's so weird to me that it's controversial or has become controversial by many in this country to speak freely. And to believe in the nation and want to put our nation first. To say it's a great nation. Faulted, yes, we have our problems. But we're still an amazing nation. We're still the greatest nation on the planet. You have more freedom in this country than you have in any other country. UK used to be a free country up until recently. You could actually redress and speak directly to politicians or how the state of the country was going. Now you can't. If you make a statement like, I don't want to see Palestinian flags, you go to jail. And they're not the only country doing that, but they used to be so closely aligned to our values. What happened? The leftists took over. Thought crimes became an issue. Thought crimes. Having an opinion was a crime. Hate crime. They call it hate crimes or hate speech or whatever they call it over there. It's not hate speech to say that you have a great country and you want to maintain it. Maybe it's not popular at times. That doesn't mean it's hate speech. I feel for them. I really do. The last couple of days when I first saw this pop up, I started scrolling through and I found myself on British X. And you see the legitimate despair in what they're saying because they've watched their country collapse. We had an election and we set a referendum to the world that we were not going to allow that to happen. And for the next 2 years, at least, we have the ability to put this country on the right track again, to let people be proud of being Americans, to not have our government BS us in what they tell us, the amount of money we spend, what we should have in our bodies, and what else. All of that, hopefully, we can put an end to. And we can get back to just being normal Americans. Because I'll tell you right now, My hope, my dream is that in the next 4 years, the entire anger, vitriol, aggravation of this country starts to lower. And we can go back to treating each other like normal human beings. Hopefully we can unprogram some of these lunatic leftists that are out there of saying, hey, everything's okay. Just because you don't agree doesn't mean that we have to fight or we have to hate each other. You have to scream in my face with your purple hair and whatever. Just be normal. Right? Not everything is a freak factor anymore. I really want to get to that because, as I said in that aforementioned group chat, we have kids that I want to leave this country to, my children, as they get older. And I want it to be a country that they're happy, a country that they're safe, a country they are proud of, and a country where they can have friends that they disagree with, but not have to hate each other. This is where we should be striving to be. Yes, we can push through all of the legislation and make cuts and do all of that stuff that I want to do over the next 4 years and send the message of, hey, this garbage will not be allowed anymore. And then I want to find a way back to normalcy. That doesn't mean that you can't disagree. That doesn't mean that our politicians can't disagree. But to turn down the fire that's been lit. And you look at how divided we are as a nation. I don't have to give you examples. You're not dumb people. You've seen it. You saw it during the election. I want to be able to talk to somebody who I may not politically disagree with and not have them scream in my face or my kid's face or whatever. I don't want them to have to go through that. I want life to become more simple and less complicated. And we can do that. Simple and less complicated is not a bad thing. Not everything needs to be a fight, and I don't want everything to be a fight. I don't want them having to sit like me in 15 years, 20 years talking about how we need to turn the rhetoric down and how we need to fix the country and how we need. I don't want them to have to do all of this. I want them to be able to enjoy the country that's being left for them. The future of this nation deserves that. And I'll tell you right now, there's been an entire generation that was robbed of that. And that's not okay. All right, last but not least. Here, God bless America. I should have played it. I didn't realize I was going to go on a rant there. The fallback bourbon cocktail, really simple. 1.5 ounces of bourbon. Use an overproof, something strong. 0.75 ounces of Grand Marnier. Put 2.5 ounces of Campari. An ounce of cider. Half ounce of lemon juice. And a little bit of simple syrup. If you throw a little bit of brown sugar into this instead of simple syrup, like a tablespoon rather, that would be great. And you can garnish it with apple slices. Put it all in. Make sure you do the liquor last. That's how you pour a good drink, is you put your liquor in last. The most expensive or the best, the driving flavor, put it in last. Shake it up. Don't overshake it. Don't let it sit. And you can serve it over ice or neat if you shake it well enough. And when you shake these drinks, you want to just barely be able to hold on to the tins. You want it to be so cold your hands hurt. And then you pour it out. And that is it's delicious. I actually made one 2 weeks ago. I have all the ingredients sitting behind me. I might make one tonight. Actually, I know I'm going to make one tonight. That's called the Fallback Bourbon Cocktail. So give it a shot. Folks, that's it for me right here on the Edge of Liberty. I'll be back Monday at noon on Pacific, 3 o'clock on the East Coast. Right here on SHR Media Network, simulcast with KLRN. Please like and subscribe wherever you are. SHRmedia.com. Check it out. I got a couple articles I'm going to be writing over the next few days at the number 2 against tyranny. Oh, a couple people in the chat room. Thank you to everyone who chatted. Thank you for everyone who watched. I will see you Monday. I really hope you have a great rest of your week.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and, oh, God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.